To introduce Tarrant County Judge Glen Whitley. Judge Whitley presides over Tarrant County Commissioners Court and is a regional leader in transportation, sustainable communities, efficiently run government, air quality, support for veterans and military family, and youth and children's issues. Judge Whitley graduated from Grand Prairie High School, earned an accounting degree from University of Texas at Arlington, and has served in the U.S. Naval Reserve. In 1983, he co-founded the accounting firm of Whitley Penn, which has offices in Fort Worth, Dallas, and Houston. He was elected a county commissioner in 1996 and Tarrant County judge in 2006. So he's still up here, but if you please welcome him, and if Becky Redmond would please also come up, and we will begin our Q&A with the state of the county. It's all yours.
Thank you, sir.
What do you think?
I think I'm nervous.
I told her not to be nervous. It'd be all right.
I told you, you're a big deal. This is a big deal.
What we was real glad to hear was that you didn't get any questions from Fox this morning.
Oh, I got questions. I got some questions.
But you've ignored them, right?
Yeah, I won't do that to you.
Well, I appreciate, first off, you being willing to do this, and I want to begin by introducing some folks. Bob, I appreciate you telling me to stay up here, but I left my introduction, so if I miss anybody on that list, Brenda, just raise your, you don't have to bring it up here. I think I can handle it, but in case you're going to do it anyway. It's with the staff I have, with the folks that I get to work with, it's real easy to come up and to be able to participate in these things and hopefully look halfway decent. But I do want to recognize and ask my office staff to stand. Catherine, Natalie, Neil, Rita, and then my chief of staff, Tom, where's Tom? There's Tom. They really make sure that I get in the right places most of the time. And that they try to get me to say the right things, but that's sometimes a little bit more difficult. So please give them a round of applause. The other folks that I have to, I cannot begin to tell you what a pleasure it is to work with other elected officials in Tarrant County, and some of those are here today. Our district clerk, Tom Wilder, is here. The lady who will take over the largest law firm in Tarrant County, January the 1st, is here, Sharon Wilson. The person who's going to be sending out about 880,000 love notes come about October the 1st, our tax assessor collector, Ron Wright. See, I told you they wouldn't boo you. And the person who I've had the pleasure to work with for the last 18 years while I have been and had the privilege of serving on the Commissioner's Court, the senior member of our court, Commissioner J.D. Johnson. And then most of y'all know her as well as you know me, my wife of 38 years, Brenda.
Yay, Brenda.
It's all yours.
Okay. Well, my first question is, do you have your crazy socks on today? Yes, you do. Okay, my background is in state government, and I always think of state government as doing things to us, okay? But I always think a county government does things for us. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about county government. Give me an overview.
It's real strange because I tell everybody when I first began thinking about running for county commissioner, someone came up to me and said, well, would you do this or would you think about this? And I said, well, I really don't know that much about county government. And over the years, what I have learned is that county government is really the front door to most of the services that citizens receive. It's really the local government. Now, it could be the cities, it could be the school districts, From the county's perspective, we record all the history of the county. Marriages, births, deaths, all of those things we take care of at the county. We transfer, if it's a transfer of property, we record it. If it's registering your vehicle, we do it. All of those things are basically taken care of by the county. In addition to that, we pretty well oversee all of the civil and criminal justice systems. We have a sheriff who takes care of the jail. We take care of health, really in our public health for those folks. We're the safety net hospital, but we also take care of the public health. I tell everybody, usually when a camera shows up in our courtroom, a mosquito has bitten somebody in Tarrant County. And that's a good thing, that's the only reason they usually show up in our courtroom, and we're very pleased about that. And then the other thing that we do that I think a lot of times is overlooked is we conduct the elections. And, everybody thinks, you don't think about that until you actually find yourself in the middle of how difficult of a job that can be. And it's something that county government does throughout the country, and it's something that, we're very proud of, and that we take care of an orderly election that will then transition from sometimes one administration to the next.
Okay, so let's talk about the future, and I know that Tarrant County's growing. What kind of growth do you see? What kind of demands on those services do you see?
We've been very fortunate, really, even throughout the recession, that we have continued to grow. And again, I think as a result of the collaboration and the different elected officials working together in Tarrant County, we basically, in the 18 years I've been on the Commissioner's Court, our tax rate is actually lower today than it was 18 years ago, and yet we've been one of the fastest growing counties, not only in this state, but really across the country. And I think it's because the elected officials work together to find ways to do things more efficiently. And a lot of times what one elected official does can impact other departments and other elected officials. And by people coming together and being willing to sit down and discuss and get the different perspectives, I believe we've been very efficient. I think as we go forward, I see nothing that tells me that we're not going to continue to grow at the same pace that we've grown at in the past. We just recognized Hillwood. They've been a tremendous partner, a private sector partner, but we've got many of those out there of the private businesses who work with us, who work with local government to make that happen. But specifically to your question, things that I see that are going to be very important to our continued growth: transportation infrastructure, but also transportation services. As more and more of us baby boomers get to the age that we don't need to be driving, my wife sometimes would argue that I don't need to be driving now. But as we get older, we're going to need to work together better to move people around who may or may not be able to drive. The other thing that we've got to focus on is water. And our water authority, the Trinity River Water District, has done an absolutely tremendous job of putting us in a position that will not curb our growth over the next couple of decades. We're at about 66% in the 4 reservoirs that we have. Many other districts in this state are at 10% or below. Austin's at 40%. We've all read Wichita Falls is drinking potty water. That doesn't excite me. And I think we all owe a debt of thanks to our water board for the foresight that they've had in looking for and planning for a future that allows us to continue to grow.
Okay, so you touched on transportation, so I want to take us there. We all like our cars, and we all like to get around on good roads, and we hate gridlock. Transportation is tough because somebody's got to pay for it, and we don't like construction and being delayed and all that. And we've been really fortunate in Northeast Tarrant County. We've had a couple of great road projects. But tell me about the future of transportation, especially out in the western part of Tarrant County.
A couple of months ago, we brought together Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Brooks, and myself, invited the folks from the western side to come together, the cities, the developers, interested parties, to begin looking at what we need to do in anticipation of some developments that have already been announced, as well as just anticipated growth that we know is coming. We're going to try to sync our master plans and begin looking for projects. Last month at one of our transportation meetings, our TxDOT district engineer laid out kind of a list of things that we've completed, the things that are currently in process, the things that are funded but haven't started yet, and then the things that are unfunded. Over the last 3 or 4 years and over the next 3 or 4 years, we're scheduled to spend more than $10 billion in Tarrant County alone on highway-type projects. We've got to begin to look also at transit, whether it be, and I believe we need to do that down the middle of these roads that we're building now. We may start off using van service, and when the vans get full, we may go to buses, and when the buses get full, we may go to trains. We may not hit that for 20 or 30 years, but we're scheduled to double in population over the next 30 to 40 years. Now, the interesting part about that is if you look at the COGS estimates, which have been pretty conservative, what you see is that in that length of time, Collin County will become the most populated, Tarrant County will be number 2, and Dallas will be number 3. So a lot of changes are going to occur over that period of time. We are at a tremendous need for dollars for infrastructure right now. I know that I've been at least 3 or 4 town hall meetings that our local delegation has held regarding transportation. Prop 1 is coming up on the November ballot. I cannot even begin to tell you how important it is that we pass Prop 1. And just a couple of things about that, and then I'll move on. You'll hear that it's taking money out of the rainy day fund. It's not. What it's doing is it's saying we have a rainy day fund whose balance has exceeded what everybody thought it would. And so what we've asked to put in place is a situation where the legislature at the beginning of the session will determine what the rainy fund balance needs to be. And then as money is added, as long as it's at that balance, then half of the money that would have gone into that will go toward transportation, and the other half will continue to go into the rainy day fund. It's estimated that that will produce about $1 billion a year, which will then be divided up and spread across the state. The estimated need on an annual basis in Texas right now for transportation infrastructure is $4 billion. So this is not the end, this is not the answer, but it is at least a step in the right direction.
Part in the right direction, absolutely. You talked about the legislature a little bit. Let's talk about the 84th session coming up. What's on your agenda for the legislative session next year?
You know, I think a lot of times when we enter into a legislative session, what we do is try to make sure that we don't forget about the unintended consequences.
Right.
We always are very watchful of what is called an unfunded mandate, because a lot of times, both at the federal level and at the state level, they'll pass something, but they'll forget to send the money with it. And what that means is that they may not raise your taxes, but they may put a law on us at the city level, at the county, at school districts, where it forces them to do that. And so we're always mindful of that, and we try to work. We've got a delegation that has always had an open door policy, and we can go in and explain to them when we find a law or we see a law that's passed that they may not have understood what the consequences are. We can go in and sit down and talk with them and make sure that whatever they're talking about passing doesn't fill up our jails or cause us to have to spend a lot of dollars that we can't afford to spend.
So what can we do to be part of that process? I know what you do, but what can we do?
I think just always take an opportunity to talk with your elected officials, let them know what your priorities are. You know, I know the tendency is to always slap them on the back and tell them what a great job they're doing. And I think we've got a very good delegation from that standpoint. But when you don't agree with what they're doing, if you do believe that transportation is important, if you do believe that water and other things are important, be sure you let them know that. Because otherwise they just feel like you're doing a great job.
And don't wait just to the session. You probably need to be doing that before the session starts, don't you think?
Yes. I mean, the best time to catch them is right now or between November and when they start in January. Right. There will be probably 7 or 8, you know this better than I, 7,000 or 8,000 bills that will be
right.
passed. That will be
filed.
Right.
Probably
as far as the number that will actually be passed will be somewhere in the 1,000 to 1,500 range.
So let's move on to, you touched on it just a little bit about the rail service from downtown Fort Worth out to DFW. It's called TexRail. And the HSR, the high-speed rail. Let's talk about that.
You know, we have been talking about the TexRail project for many years. When we first started talking about it, we were going to get there in 2012, and DART was going to be there slightly behind us. DART is there, and we're hopefully going to be there slightly behind them. We've got a great group of folks working at the T. I think they're expecting the record of decision to come out, which means that they can then begin building. I think they're thinking that's going to be out in the next couple of weeks, so we're excited about that. With regards to the high-speed rail, we've heard an awful lot about a line from Houston up to Dallas that is being funded by the Japanese. We also we know that there's interest in a line from Austin up to Fort Worth and on up into Oklahoma. But we feel it's absolutely critical that we have that link between Fort Worth, Arlington, and Dallas. And so the TxDOT appointed a 7-person commission, I believe it's 7, to work on that. And I'm on that, I'm one of the members of that. We've got funding to take us through the record of decision, which means we do the environmental, we do all of the layout of where it's going to be, and we then, once we get that record of decision, then we can go forward. Again, our goal would be for it to be a public-private partnership and something that you could get on a train in Fort Worth, and 19 minutes later, after a stop in Arlington, you'll be in downtown Dallas.
That would be great. I'd love to
It's all over Europe. It's a way to move people.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, a way, with all the people that we've got moving here, cars, as much as we love our cars, and as many of you in this room could not give up the car, I always refer to the towers that we have that employ thousands of people and say, those people, you get in front of that door going in at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or coming out at 8 in the morning, and you'll get run over. There's a lot of people who have a definite set schedule. Those are the folks who are going to look for rail service, van service, or bus service if we'll just get it there. And we've got a great new director at the T, and Paul Ballard. I think he brings some great expertise from the area that he came from, which was out of the Nashville, Tennessee area. I'm very excited about where we're going.
Great. Okay, we talked about planes and we talked about transportation. I'm going to take you off the rail just a little bit here. What's the most fun you've had at 18,000 feet?
It was riding in that F-16
there
that you
go.
guys let
That's
me get
right.
in
That was
at
fun.
Lockheed. I will never forget that. I think my wife was more nervous about that than I was. And I'm very quick to tell everybody that I came down and everything was still where it was when I went up.
Did they dump water on you?
They did dump water on me.
Okay.
And it was a warm day, and I can guarantee you, as much as I was sweating, I was very glad to get that
I understand.
That cold water dumped on me.
I'm glad you had an opportunity to do that.
It was
That's
fantastic.
Pretty cool.
It was
very
I
cool.
got to check that off the bucket list.
Absolutely. Okay, now I tell you, I saw one of my favorite people. He's sitting right there. It's Robert Early, and I want to talk about health care a little bit. And so tell us about, I know John Peter Smith is, the healthcare system is, JPS is doing great.
JPS is doing absolutely fantastic. Robert is doing a tremendous job out there. He really is. I mean, he does deserve a round of applause. And he's surrounded himself with a great team. We had issues since I've been on the court with the public hospital, and I think what Robert has brought to that, besides, and the most important thing he's brought there is a real passion for patient care and a passion for people. But he also has a very good understanding, having served in the legislature. He's got a great understanding of the political side of running a public hospital. And so he's brought that to the facility also. And I have to mention, as I do that, I was very honored to be appointed to the UNT Board of Regents back last fall. And it was right after they had brought in Dr. Michael Williams as the president of that particular, of the Health Science Center. He and Robert, I think, hit it off from the very beginning. And again, I think both of them have that passion for not only public service, but also a passion for patient care. Dr. Williams is the first alumni from that institution who has had the opportunity to be the president.
Right.
He grew up in Fort Worth. He went to school at Texas Wesleyan. He did residency in this area. He is a DO. He is an MD. He has a tremendous business background. And I think as the two of them met and developed a real friendship and a real trust, they said, you know, I think there's things we could do together to be more efficient and to be more effective and to really be on the cusp of healthcare change. And when you look at the fact that both of these institutions are taxpayer-funded type institutions, it really made a lot of sense. So what they did is they said, let's see if we can do something, and the first stop has got to be with the attorneys to make sure legally we can do it. And that happened. And then they went and talked with their various boards and got the ability to go forward with an MOU. And once that was done, they have established 10 committees made up of over 70 people from both institutions, and they're now getting into the detail. And this is where we'll really determine whether or not this can happen. But if it does, then what we're going to find is that right now we've got 11 clinics where UNT furnishes the physician side and JPS furnishes the administrative side. And that can be a little dysfunctional when you've got two different groups. And under this new umbrella that they're talking about, we would improve patient care, I believe make it much more efficient. And the key to that, what's so important about that is these folks right now, if they're not getting into these clinics, then they're filling the emergency rooms of not only JPS, but of all the other hospitals in Tarrant County. And that's the most inefficient place and the most expensive place for them to go.
Right.
And so if this can work, if these 10 committees and 70 members can really work together and figure out how to make it work, then I think it's going to be the new face of how we go forward with health care. And I think it'll be a tremendous, I'm excited about the fact that we're going to lead it, that we have a chance to leading the state and really the country in this type of a deal.
It's very exciting. It's
It
a
is.
Great
It
idea.
really is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the new arena area. Tell us, can you talk about that a little bit?
I guess in the time that I've been on the court, we've seen a lot of public-private partnerships. The Cowboys Stadium, I think, is an excellent example of where the city acted as, helped with the incentive to bring the Cowboys to Tarrant County. I am very excited about the new arena that Fort Worth is looking at with, again, with the private sector. I mean, what more could you ask for? Basically, the city has an opportunity to bring a new arena They cap their cost. They've got a private partner who's basically willing to share half that cost. And, oh, by the way, if there's adds to it, they're going to take care of all of that. They're going to pay for 100% of that. And I'll never forget Mayor Cluck telling me after they had done the deal with the Cowboys where they limited what their amount was going to be, said Jerry would constantly call me and say, Bob, I want to do this. I think this is going to be great. And Bob would say, Jerry, I do too. Go right ahead, do it. And so basically a $800 to $900 million stadium became a 1.1, 1.2. Right. We're looking at something which I think is going to be, it's going to be just a real great example for us. It's going to continue to highlight that whole equestrian area that we've got out there that we're so proud of. And I mean, it's our heritage. Fort Worth, Tarrant County, where the West begins. It's, you know, if you just look at that and you look at everything that's going on, downtown with the plaza, you've got the Magnolia area, you've got the whole 7th Street area now going all the way out to the Will Rogers area. You've got all of the activity that's going on in the stockyards that we've been hearing about, the vision that's going on. Again, I think another thing to point to our water district and say, it's just an exciting time. People say, we brought a conference here last year. I am still getting people who are writing me notes, or anytime I go to a meeting, that tell me what a great time they had in Fort Worth and Tarrant County, and how friendly the folks were, and how much they're ready to come back.
NACO.
And again, NACO, and y'all were sponsors, Hillwood, BNSF. We had, again, the private sector coming forward and saying, you know, we think it's important to show off our community.
Absolutely.
Did a great job.
Okay, so we're running out of time. We only have a couple of minutes left. Do you want to make some kind of closing remarks? Just kind of wrap things up?
It's everybody in this room, and I really mean that when I say what makes Tarrant County successful, in each one of the communities, not just Fort Worth, but really throughout the county, is the collaboration and the fact that that government's not always the answer. In fact, most of the time it's not the answer. And I think that what we try to do is try to find great organizations who are doing great things and help them to be able to continue to do that, to facilitate their success, whether it be in transportation services, whether it be in entertainment, whether it be in healthcare, whatever it may be. We try to work together and not reinvent the wheel and not say, well, that's, you know, government ought to take care of that. The best asset that we have in Tarrant County is the generosity of our individual citizens and their willingness to do more and to help each other out. And the last thing in the world we want to do is, as a government, say we need to be doing that and discourage individuals from being able to share in what I think is an opportunity of service. And people who, if you've worked with organizations, and I know everybody in this room has, you've served on boards, you've worked, you've delivered meals, you've gone out of your way for the food bank, there's always opportunities. You get as much out of that. Time and again, I will talk with folks and they say, you know, I deliver those meals, but I really get more out of that than the people who are receiving those meals. And that's what's exciting, and what I think we as governments have to always recognize is it might be a little bit easier if we just did it, but we lose a tremendous amount of opportunities when we take on that position. And it's absolutely critical that we allow folks to continue to grow and to continue to be a part of what I think is one of the greatest communities, certainly in this state and really in this country.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't so bad, was it?
Yeah. We're right on time.
We are. It just went to 0.
Absolutely. We stayed on time.
So Pence, you're on. You got to get us out of here.
I got 15 minutes to kill by my schedule. No, we did great. That was a great discussion.